do stuff.
Cool. Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you, Ed, so much for inviting me to be a guest on during your meeting today. It's lovely to meet everyone. I will admit right off the bat that I was unaware of the Jewish Small Communities Network until Ed reached out to me. So very, very intrigued. I'll have to have a sidebar conversation with Ed later of how we can have Mallorca perhaps be an honorary member of some kind. We do have many British constitutes, and actually the community of Mallorca was founded by British Ashkenazi Orthodox Jews who came down in the late 60s, 70s when Franco was still in power here. And they started by creating by getting a plot of land next to a Christian cemetery, and we still to this day maintain a Jewish cemetery here on the island. Has to be one of very few in all of Spain. I believe Madrid, Barcelona, perhaps Melilla, North Africa, but not many Jewish cemeteries in all of Spain. So we have one here. And then they also have the Hotel Santa Ana in an area called Cala Mayor, which is just outside Palma. And again, I understand the founders there had a kosher restaurant in the 70s as well. I want to continue talking about the, one moment, I'll be there in a second. I want to continue talking about a little bit of the history of the community and then also talk about modern times. But my background is a TV commercial producer from New Jersey in the United States originally, if you can't detect my accent. And I moved to Mallorca 5 years ago to do just that, for work reasons. I was able to get a job. So because I'm so audio-visual, I thought to hook you guys in, to bring you guys into a little bit of the talk I want to have with you today, I thought I would share with you one of our most recent initiatives. This happened last October, November. We got a grant from the local city hall here in Palma, Limud Mallorca, which my wife and I started 2 years ago, to go into different public schools around the island and educate them about the Holocaust. So this is a little video we made about that initiative that we just started a couple months ago. So I'll share my screen and hopefully you will hear the sound as well. And let's go here. And here we are. Okay. Quick time. So you can probably still hear me. I'll read out for those who aren't able to see the subtitles, but you should see subtitles coming up as well.
Hem rebut aquí una xerrada de l'Holocaust i...
Sorry about that.
Considero que és un tema capital, considero que és un tema que...
Sorry about that. That was the wrong video here. This is the correct one. Maybe I'm not as adept as I thought I was, but here we go. This is a short 30-second video or 1-minute video of 2-minute video of the Holocaust chats that we've been doing. Can you hear the sound? Yes? Yes. Okay. This came to a head in 2019 when we see that there were some salutes that they were doing in the school here, fascist salutes. We decided to offer to visit schools to educate them about the Holocaust. And they said yes. We are now working with many Mallorquin schools to spread the messages of tolerance, respect, and freedom. These were the reflections of one teacher following one of our talks.
Bé, hem rebut aquí una xerrada de l'Holocaust i considero que és un tema capital, considero que és un tema que s'hauria de reproduir a altres centres, per lo que m'han comentat i de més.
From what I've been told, we have been the first center.
Els primers centres, per no dir el primer, en què
which it has begun to treat this type of talks.
Jo crec que
I
de
think
cara
that
a
regarding the students, they've
s'ha
been
vist
very
un
involved.
alumnat molt participatiu, amb moltes
Ideas, which they also want to
que
share
a
their
més
thoughts.
tenen ganes de compartir la seva mentalitat, ganes
And find out that
de
it's
fer
been a
veure
topic
que,
only from
tot i
50,
ser un
60,
tema de fa
70 years ago.
50, 60, 70 anys, segueix estant vigent,
So of course, we
seguim
continue seeing
veient
ideas that
idees
today, in
que avui en dia
today's
en societat
economy,
actual, pues, pareix que
that
se
they are
tornen a
reproducing
reproduir.
again. And I think
Jo
that
crec
it's a
que és un
topic
tema que
that
s'hauria
should
de
be shared
compartir
more
mestres,
centers, more
alumnes,
students. And yeah, go ahead, guys, because it is a great project. So once again, that was just a little something that we've been doing here. You know, Ed asked, you know, you guys are all part of small communities. How can you engage other members of your communities? We're going into a new age of virtual online learning, Instagram, everyone's on their phones, mobile connected. So, you know, we really do believe that anything audio visual can help to get the message out and to bring more people in. About bringing more people in, the community, once again, was started by British Ashkenazi, and we have not had a rabbi or a chazan, I believe, since 2005, 2006. And around that time is when there was a change in the community where it went from Ashkenazi to more Sephardi, and the leadership changed, and there was less English being spoken in the synagogue, more Spanish, of course. And this was around the time when local Mallorquins, because in Mallorca they speak Mallorquin and Spanish. Mallorquin is like Catalan. You would have heard of that language from Barcelona, Catalunya. And we won't get into it today. That's another presentation that I'm happy to do with any one of your communities online, as I did with Rabbi Ariel Abel yesterday and Princess Road Synagogue, talking about who these people are, the conversos, the chuetas, right? They're people from Mallorca who know that they have Jewish roots, and about 10 or 12 of them have now come back to Judaism. So they did that around 2006, 2007, with the help of an organization called Shavei Yisrael. So, you know, we have this one synagogue that was started in 1987 is when they built when they opened up the building where it is now. And we had a board of directors that was just one person, and he would be leading the service. And that's when I came in. I came in 2014, 2015, thinking I was not going to know anyone else that's Jewish on the island, and found out that there was a synagogue. I went in. I was not raised Orthodox. My dad's Israeli. My mother's, you know, a conservative Jewish educator in New York. And so beggars can't be choosers. I was happy to have a synagogue. But I noticed that I was the only one speaking English there. I was the only one below the age of 60. And they, very tough times, would not get a minyan on Friday nights. The only time they would meet is Friday night for Kabbalat Shabbat. And the prayer, the minchag, is very eclectic, let's call it. It's a lot, very Sephardi tunes. But every now and then we'll sing, you know, Aleinu l'shavek ladon hakol, you know, like a very different tune that the Sephardis don't normally sing. So, you know, we have this community of about 1,000 Jews, we believe, that are on the island. I personally have made it my mission to get to know as many Jews that live on the island. And I've now built up a bit of a network of around 300 or 400 Jews that I know either live on the island or come in and out of the island. They have second homes here or third homes here. Many live full-time in England or in Germany. And I got to a point where, you know, the only way of Jewish life on this island 4 years ago was going on Friday night. And to me, that's not the type of Judaism that I was brought up with. I went to Jewish sleepaway summer camp. I know that there's so much more to Judaism, food and music and literature, and there's ways to incorporate that. So my wife and I started Limud Mallorca. Our first one was in April of 2018. And I'll share with you a PowerPoint that I have available as well. Can you guys all see that? Yeah? So this is just, again, a little timeline here. And here you have a picture of the synagogue, and here's a picture of the cemetery. Just a quick note that in 2011 is when a rabbi named Nissim Karelitz said that if you are Chueta by your mother's line and you have a family tree that shows that, you do not have to convert, you can return to Judaism. A very big, important decision that was made. Here's our first limud. We thought 15 or 20 people would show up because we didn't know anyone, but out of nowhere, 85 people came. And it was a full day of learning. I have a video to share at the end if we have time of what that event looked like. It was a one-day event. We had people from Mallorca, people from all over the world. We had 3 different tracks. So we had English, Spanish, and even Catalan, which was lovely. And then 2 Augusts ago, of 2018, 3 very important events happened in Jewish Mallorca community. One, the current president right over here, Abraham Barchilon, decided to resign because we were having financial issues. Members were dropping off. They were not happy with the way the organization was, the synagogue was being run. And so he left it and we were going to close. We were going to lock up the synagogue, throw away the key. There was no one really interested in taking over. And then I spoke about it with my wife and I said, look, I don't want to be the president because I don't want that title nor responsibility, but I would like to be on the board and at least have a say in, hopefully we can get a rabbi here one day, or hopefully we can have some type of Jewish education for the many families. There's about, I would say 100 families here with children, many of them Israelis. They don't come to anything. They don't want to know anything about the synagogue, but they do come every now and then for Tu B'Shvat, for Hanukkah, for certain holidays that we celebrate. So in that August, we were elected, myself, along with Ari Molina, our current president, Pinchas Ben Abraham, and Mikel Segura, who's up here. Mikel and Pinchas are Chuetas, and they've returned to Judaism. Their families have been here centuries in Mallorca. So this is the first time in over 500 years that 2 Jews that are from Mallorca that have returned to their roots are now leaders of the community. It was a pretty a big event for us. Also that same year, Pinchas and his wife, Chiska Valls, went to Israel and got married. First Chueta wedding in Israel to take place in over 500 years. And for the first time after 40 years of asking, they put up a memorial where there were 37 crypto Jews that were burned alive on, 3 of them were burned alive on this spot in Palma. And the City Hall finally made this monument for them. That happened 2 August ago. So really exciting. Also, I began giving kind of freelance tours. I'm not a tour guide by trade. I'm a TV commercial producer, but I've been researching and speaking with people and learning about the Jewish quarter here, that I said, you know what, let's do it. Let's go on a tour. And that would later lead to last year's Limud with over 150 people. We had a choir, Catholic choir, that came and sang Yerushalayim Shel Zahav in Hebrew with us. They sang the Hatikva because the director is someone who is Chueta, who has Jewish roots. And so he already was teaching his choir Hebrew songs. And I happened to find them in a church one day. And I said, you guys got to come to our Jewish cultural event. And here he is right here, Luis Fortesa. And we had people from Israel fly in, a lot of people from the UK, from Sweden. It was a really beautiful event. And unfortunately, we had to cancel our Limud this year due to COVID, but we're looking to do it in September or October in person, in person, I guess, but also perhaps a virtual component. So people who can't make it to Mallorca can attend. So is there a Jewish revival happening today? We believe so. We're making a documentary film right now about the intricacies of the Jewish community with so many different languages and different backgrounds and different streams of Judaism. People who are secular, people who are conservative, reform, people who are Mizrahi, Sephardi, Ashkenazi. It's quite fascinating. Many people are from the UK are coming to do weddings here. Well, I don't know how that'll affect now, but I've had a number of phone calls ask about kosher food. We do ship in kosher meat from Malaga, and it sits in our kosher kitchen in the synagogue. We maybe have 5 or 6 people on the island that actually go and buy it, but we want to at least have that service for those few people. There was a very lovely article about the work we're doing here in the BBC last summer. And as I said, we're doing work with the local schools, public schools, talking to them about the Jewish history of Mallorca, as well as the Holocaust, as I shared with you earlier. And the really cool thing, last September, we worked with the City Hall to do a big, open to the public, anyone could come, Rosh Hashanah event. Over 200 people came. Obviously, 70-80% non-Jewish, but we're interested to share this Jewish New Year celebration. And here's a picture of that at the bottom. I guess life takes you where it takes you, right? And so by becoming on the board of the synagogue and starting Limud Mallorca, I've since left my work as a TV production commercial producer, and I've opened up Jewish Mallorca, it's with a J, and we're giving tours now to anyone who comes. We were gonna have 400 people come in for a week of Pesach. They were gonna take over a hotel and kosher the whole hotel here, but that was canceled, unfortunately. And so now we've had to innovate, and two ways that we're looking for support for our community is doing what I just did with Rabbi Ariel 2 days ago, giving online lectures, which again, I'm happy to do that with any of your communities if that's something of interest. And we have a virtual tour that's online now. I can put the link to the website once again in the chat, but I am going to share with you a quick 1-minute trailer as a way of closing my chat today, and of course opening to any questions you might have. So here is, these are the two websites, Limud Mallorca, 1 M, because in Spanish we spell it with only 1 M, and 2 L's, limudmallorca.com. We invite you to see our page and sign up to our newsletter. We're doing Friday night Shazoom with Rabbi Ariel. Every Friday night at 5 p.m. UK time, we get together, there's some music, there's some drash, it's bilingual. We have 2 breakout rooms, one for Spanish speakers, one's for English speakers. And we're now doing it every other week, because during lockdown, we were doing it every week, and now things are opening up again. But it's quite an interesting initiative, and we're excited about it. And Jewish Mallorca, spelled with a J, you have that on the bottom. So I'm just gonna share with you this one last 1-minute trailer for you all to enjoy. And then we'll open up to any questions you might have, and any other comments that Ed, you might want to say. So here is our virtual tour that we just opened up maybe 2 weeks ago. So super excited for you guys to check it out. Share screen, share computer, and here we go, guys. So guys, I want everyone to take a look around. I think streets really speak for themselves, and that's how you get to find out about the history. 1435, there's a mass conversion. Hundreds of Jews go into a church, they get baptized, and they come out as Christians. What happened in 1691 changed the course of history for these 15 families and all of their descendants. Why we're here in this world, to connect with everyone. There are so many incredible characters like rabbis, philosophers, map makers, mathematicians, Mallorquins that were Jewish, that contributed so much. Sepharad in Hebrew means Spain. Every archaeologist that I've shown this to says it is just a coincidence. You could see the top part of the Star of David. The ensaimada might be from a Jewish bread. I think it's important that we learn about history so we can hopefully prevent from it to repeat. This is the unique story that I believe needs to be told. So there you have it, guys. I will put once again in the chat here the link for that virtual tour. Again, you know, all proceeds go to us here at Jewish Mallorca, the tourism company, to kind of keep up the work that we're doing, telling the story of the Jewish converso and Chueta history of Mallorca. And then, and there's other avenues if you want to support directly the synagogue. You know, I can also obviously make that information available as well. And I'll have to keep you guys updated on future events for Limud Mallorca. And yeah, that's a little bit about what we're up to right now. So thank you once again, Ed, for allowing me the opportunity to.
Thank you very much, Dani. That's absolutely brilliant. You know, I'm sure people. I love going to Mallorca. I'm sure lots of people in the Zoom will have experienced the same thing as well. And to know that you know, you could potentially get kosher food there, and you know, find out a bit more about the Jewish history when you actually go there is absolutely great. And I'm sure lots of people love to support the efforts that you're doing there and keep the shul going. I know lots of people enjoy visiting shuls when they go on holiday and they visit different places. So I just wonder whether you'd like to take some questions, whether anybody's got some questions. If you do, I can see Hilary Fox, you got your hand up. Do you want to unmute yourself and Stephen after that?
Hello, Dani. That was very interesting. We all run annual HMD events every January, and I wondered if you also are connected to the Holocaust Memorial Day Trust in London, who guide us.
So yeah, two things in response. One is for the past 10 years, the city of Palma has done a Holocaust memorial where we light 6 candles in memory of the 6 million murdered in the Holocaust. And the government of the Balearic Islands, actually, the autonomous government there, sponsors that event, and that's really lovely. And I don't believe we're connected to that specific organization. You said we are connected to another organization. I don't know if it's the same one that actually has donated one of our 4 Torah scrolls. So we have 4 Torahs.
That'll be the Czech Memorial, the Westminster Synagogue have a collection, and they give them out to any synagogue that needs them, don't they?
Right, they recovered them from the Holocaust and then the communities that need. So we have one of those Torah scrolls that I know is from an organization in London.
You might find the Holocaust Memorial Day Trust helpful. They choose a different theme every year and give out lots of helpful information.
Wonderful.
It sounds as if you're doing a great job anyway.
Well, we just need, as much support, as much help as possible, because even if you get in the news or you get some press, it doesn't necessarily translate to raising funds to open up a Jewish day school one day. That's the dream. I have a son who's 16 months old. We're very blessed to have our firstborn boy, and we want to stay here. We want to revive the Jewish community, and we're on our way, but we need more help. It's a hard job, as many of you know, in small communities.
Well done.
Yeah. Just to let you know, Dani, we've got Tal Bassani from Venice in the meeting today. I don't know whether you've met Tal before.
No.
She's just got a picture up. It actually says it says Tally.
I'm here. I'm fascinated. Okay. Is it okay if I turn on my mic?
Yeah, sure.
I'm totally fascinated. I'm in Venice, in Italy.
Oh.
And I would love to have a conversation with you offline, because I think there's, first of all, in your passion, there's so much that we have in common for being in a small community that has so many interesting things to offer the Jewish world, but that really needs so much support and work. So I'd love to have a conversation.
This is see, things happen for a reason, Ed, and I want to tell you about this idea that we have in Mallorca, not to do a Limud Mallorca, to do a Limud Mediterranean, and to get all the different Limud groups in Nice, and Marseille, Barcelona, Mallorca. We have a woman in Morocco who's willing to work with us, and I don't know any Limud people in Italy, and here's Talia. So this is a crazy connection.
Yeah,
so I will connect offline, but I thought it was beautiful and colorful and exciting and fascinating. And like so many places in Europe, there are all these personalities that have contributed so much to the world and to the Jewish people. And I always find it so eye-opening to learn about those things. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you for being here. Lovely.
And I'm going to bring in Stephen next, but I'm just going to, Michael Black in Belfast is having to nip off for family reasons. He says he's hoping to go to Palma in July, flights permitting. Ooh. And I'll send Michael, well, Dani, you did actually put your thing in the chat, but I'll send it to anybody who wants it anyway. So Stephen.
Yeah, Dani, thanks so much. Mallorca was my honeymoon destination a little while ago, about 43 years ago. And also, and it was quite a useful destination for Pesach, for taking over hotels. A friend of mine, Chazan Avram Levin, went a few times. I think Steve Robbins a couple of times. I don't know if that's still happening. Perhaps you could comment. But my main question to you is, by delivering talks about Judaism and about the Holocaust, have you come across people, have people come up to you occasionally and said, oh, do you know, I'm Jewish, or my father's Jewish, or my mother's Jewish, or do you come across people in a sort of, how can I put it, an innocent outreach way? Have you found Jews because of those talks?
The answer is yes. I mean, we did Limud Mallorca 2 years ago, and a couple came. They had already started exploring Kabbalah. I think they had gone to New York for a session. They had no idea there was a synagogue for the last, 30, 40 years here in Mallorca. And they somehow found about our Limud. They came, they were blown away by all the talks. They found out about the synagogue. They've been going every Friday night, and now they're on a path to conversion, which is very complicated. I can't get into it now, but there's no Beit Din in Spain, so we actually use the London Beit Din, apparently. The Federation of Jewish Communities of Spain that sits in Madrid, they're the kind of overseer, but there's Reform shuls, there's Mazorti, there's, of course, Orthodox. There's a number of different streams of Judaism here in Spain. And the idea of conversion is extremely complicated, because just if you get converted with one way doesn't necessarily mean that the rabbinate in Israel will accept it. And some of these people are interested in converting, so they might be able to move and make Aliyah one day. So the short answer to your question is yes, very often. We did an open doors to the synagogue last September and filled. 80 people came that had never been in a synagogue before. And some of them had come up to us afterwards and said, I have one of the 15 last names that my family has been discriminated against for being Jewish. I want to learn about this. I want to investigate. So it's tricky, right? Because, as an Orthodox shul, you have to have security, and you have to know where people come from. And it's not as open as perhaps other types of shuls. But we really believe in the project of Limud Mallorca, of sharing and expressing Jewish culture in all its beautiful forms. So if you're interested in learning about it, you can come to an event, you could come to a conference, what have you, and it's open for you to see. And there's obviously no one is interested in actively going to convert anyone with Jewish roots. There are other organizations that do that. I believe Reconnectar is one, and Shavei Israel is another. But the other quick answer to your question you said was the Pesach. And that was a long time ago. And I understand for 10, 15 years, they have not done any kosher for Pesach travels. And I think because of the movement that we're starting here and the revival that we're encouraging, Gaia Tours out of Austria was going to do in this past April, but unfortunately it was canceled due to the COVID, senior COVID, we like to call them over here.
If I can just come back on one issue, I was thinking, because often we pick up transferable ideas with talking, I was thinking that for some small communities, if one suggested that one of the ways of finding Jewish people might be to approach local authorities or institutions to give talks about Judaism or about the Holocaust. Everyone's got the guts to do that, or somebody who could work with the Holocaust Educational Trust or whatever and give little talks to organizations or to schools. Is it a way of discovering some more Jewish people who otherwise would never connect? Maybe Ed will come in on this, or somebody else, but what you've done in Palma is extraordinary and might be giving us food for thought.
Certainly.
It is happening in some communities, but maybe not enough.
So certainly, sort of JSCN has like a marriage service between schools and small communities, and we match up around 80 new schools and communities every year for talks in schools or visits to synagogues. So that's 80 new ones. That's around about an additional 8,000 pupils every year that we facilitate. So there is that. And I'll mention to Dani now, we'll chat later on, but Holocaust Education Trust, we're quite clued in to all those links, so I can help with that. Fiona, you had your hand up a long time ago. Have you still got a question there in Scotland?
Well, no, I was just going to mention the Holocaust Educational Trust as being a fantastic resource. I also, well, I should say that I am a director of the Scottish Jewish Archive Centre in Glasgow, and we are in the process, held up by COVID, of creating a Scottish Jewish Heritage Centre, and part of that's going to be a Holocaust era study centre, and very much that's aimed at education. But as for reaching out to people and giving talks, etc., I thought Fiona Frank, I think, is with us, who's worked for SCOJEC as outreach officer, and it's not the only way to connect with people to talk about Judaism or to talk about the Holocaust. Culture and events are fantastic ways of reaching out to people and bringing them in. Where they might be, if they have got Jewish roots, or had a Jewish grandmother or a Jewish father, but they've had no connection with Judaism, shuls are very off-putting places for them. Whereas coming along to a cultural event or to dance or hear some poetry, whatever, is a much more appealing way to link into them. But Fiona should talk more. She's the expert on putting on all these events across.
Well, I know she's writing an article for Jewish Renaissance about klezmer, and you've had a lot of klezmer going on in Scotland. And
but it would be Ladino tradition in where you are, and that would be a fantastic. Just at the moment, what we found is that instead of doing an event in Edinburgh or an event in Inverness or an event in Aberdeen like we've done for the last 10 years, we've suddenly done an event and people come from all over the world. It's amazing. You can have performers from all over the world, and you can badge it as an Edinburgh event, but hundreds of people can come from all over, and it's an opportunity at the moment to have some Ladino music, which there's a big international following for that, and it would speak to to local people, and like Fiona says, it's another thing apart from Holocaust, which is Jewish and unknown. People don't know about it.
Anybody else want to bring anything else up? Question?
How did you know I was writing an article for Jewish Renaissance? Everyone knows everything around here.
Because I was talking to them yesterday.
I just want to respond to a private message that Jillian sent to me, that we are very close friends with Thomas and Michelle and their son Teo Goldsmith, who live on the island, and they're 100% big supporters of Limud and of the shul. They've come back to the shul now, and thank you for saying hello to them, and I'll be sure to pass on your message.
Well, and can I just say too, I was chair, and I'm still very involved I was chair of Limud Scotland in the past, and have been very involved. And I think Limud is a fantastic way of connecting with people and bringing people together across the spectrum. So it's wonderful to hear that you're doing that in Mallorca as well.
Michelin, yes.
I'm just wondering if it helps to have nice hot weather when you're embarked on renewing a community. Slightly frivolous question perhaps, but we have huge tourist potential in Scotland, but we don't have the weather.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, people will travel in for our Limud because they want to have a vacation as well. And there's actually a really neat idea. I was speaking with Golan Ben Horin. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that rabbi out of Israel, of putting together like a vacation, a Jewish educational tourism retreat, right? So it's like 4 or 5 days or a week long, where you can come. It's like Limud, so there's different presenters and different activities. So there's learning. connecting with the people that you're on the retreat with, but also focus on vacation. So we have hikes and we have cycling and we have a visit to a winery. You know, you have to think out of the box, right? I mean, today, in today's day and age, the people that are going to the synagogue just to pray because that's what they are focused on, I think is becoming less and less. So we need to find different ways to entice people to connect to their Judaism, which is why I'm a big proponent of Limud, because it's this idea of open and inclusive. You can be any type of Jew you want to be, no judgments, and come and connect and be together and learn together, right? If you don't believe in learning, then maybe I'm not going to have a lot of things in common with you, because I think learning is one of the most important things we can be doing as we grow and develop and change in our lives today. So those are just some thoughts. You ask about good weather. You know, our limuds are in a building. You know, we're not doing limud outside. You know, we're not doing limud on the beach, although that might be another good idea. So I think if you push the really interesting presenters, really interesting topics, you know, someone said Ladino, someone said food. If you make Judaism as accessible as possible with all the different things that Judaism and Jewish culture has to offer, I think that's a neat way to connect to more people in your communities.
Yes, I mean, I'm going to come to Michelle in a second, but the chief rabbi, Rabbi Mervis, said that one of the most